War is a nightmare. But war is also an incredible teacher. And it teaches you lessons that you will not forget.
That's Jocko Willink. He's one of the most intense guys I've ever met. During the Iraq War, he was a commander of Navy SEALs stationed in the city of Ramadi. And that city had been taken over by terrorists who were torturing, raping, and murdering the people who lived there.
And then the fog of war rolled in. With its confusion and chaos and mayhem, a horrendous firefight broke out. This firefight, tragically, was between us and us.
Good guys were shooting against good guys, and they didn't realize it. They were on the same team, and soldiers were wounded, and one even died from this mistake. Jocko's leader wanted an explanation of what happened.
And then I told them that there was only one person at fault for what had happened. There was only one person to blame. And that person was me. And then I went on to explain to them some new tactics, techniques, and procedures that we were going to implement to ensure that this kind of travesty never happened again.
Jocko took ownership for the mistake, and he made sure that never happened again. Ultimately, by his leadership, they were able to bring peace to Ramadi, and Jocko's unit became the most decorated special operations unit of the war.
So I say, take ownership. Take extreme ownership. Don't make excuses. Don't blame any other person or any other thing. Take ownership of your mistakes. Take ownership of your shortfalls. Take ownership of your problems. And then take ownership of the solutions that will get those problems solved.
Since retiring as a Navy SEAL, Jocko has been sharing the lessons he learned on the battlefield. He's co-authored a New York Times bestseller called Extreme Ownership, and he's written several other books. Jocko has also written a series of books for kids called The Way of the Warrior Kid. Our kids have read those books, and Isaac, what were your thoughts about them?
I have loved them. They taught me a lot of discipline, and I pushed myself more after the books. I wanted to be more active. I actually read the second and third book in less than 2 days. So
one of the things it encourages kids to do is to make a warrior kid code, kind of a series of rules that you make for yourself to be self-disciplined that you want to follow. Isaac has his up on his wall. I was wondering if you could kind of share with us some of the parts of your warrior kid code.
Yeah, for sure. The warrior kid trains hard, exercises, and eats right to be healthy, fit, and strong. The warrior kid treats people with respect, doesn't judge them, and helps out other people whenever possible. The warrior kid stays humble, controls his ego, and doesn't lose his temper. The warrior kid always wants to learn and ask questions when he doesn't understand.
We really appreciate the message that Jocko Willink is getting out about extreme ownership and about discipline, and we're excited to learn from him and share that with you.
Welcome to J House, where we interview people we admire who have developed skills and created cool things. We want to learn from their experiences to inspire us in our lives.
What's happening? Jocko's here.
Jocko, good to meet you. I'm Jeremy. This is Isaac.
What's up, Jeremy and Isaac?
Well, first off, Jocko, we want to thank you for not just your service, but the way that you served and the way that you're sacrificing now to get your message of the things you learned out to the world.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was an honor for me to be able to serve.
As we've gone through your books, there's dedications to people like Mikey Mansour and Mark Lee, and these are fallen soldiers. We were reading about Mikey Mansour, who literally jumped on a grenade to save his team. What does it mean to you that you're dedicating your work to these fallen soldiers?
Well, these guys were my friends, and these are individuals that made the ultimate sacrifice for us and for me so that we can live our lives the way we do. And so I feel it's the minimum I could do to try and get people to know who they were, know their stories, and honor their memories.
We know you talk about extreme ownership. What is extreme ownership?
Well, Isaac, extreme ownership means you are not going to blame anyone else or anything else when something goes wrong. So it's an idea of taking responsibility for your actions. So when something goes wrong, instead of pointing at your little sister and saying, "Well, she's the one that knocked over the milk," you actually say, "You know what? I should have put the milk away and shouldn't have left it out on the table where my little sister could run into it." And what happens is when you start taking ownership of problems instead of blaming other people, then you actually solve the problems and your life becomes a lot better.
What are some of the rewards from taking extreme ownership?
Well, Isaac, the biggest reward that you get is that you actually get the problem solved. Let's say in school, you have a test that you weren't really ready for, and you get a bad grade on your test. And you come home and you say, "Well, my teacher didn't tell me what was going to be on the test," or "the teacher didn't give us enough time to take the test," or "Billy across the row from me was misbehaving when I was trying to take the test, and that's why I got a bad grade." And so what you're really doing is you're saying, the reason I got a bad grade wasn't my fault, so I don't need to change anything. And if you don't change anything, guess what you're going to get? You're going to keep getting bad grades on your tests. So if you come home with a bad grade on your test and say, "You know what? I got a bad grade on the test. I didn't study hard enough. So next time I'm going to review it more. I'm going to study it more. I'm going to make sure I make flashcards so I really know it like the back of my hand." And even if the teacher's distracting, even if Billy is misbehaving, even if I don't have enough time, I will have enough time because I will know the material. I'll be able to concentrate because I know what I'm thinking about. So the minute you take ownership of problems, that's when you actually get them solved. And it's very helpful to do in every aspect of life, not just on the battlefield and not just in a leadership position, but to do that with your own life as well.
I know it's really common in our family where the kids will be fighting over something, they'll lose their temper, they aren't able to control their emotions. What's your advice to help kids with taking ownership for losing their temper?
Well, one thing I can tell you as a grown up is that you never make good decisions when you're super emotional. Whether you're super sad or you're super angry, if your emotions get control over you, you are going to do things that you shouldn't do. You're going to make bad decisions. And when you finally calm down, you'll realize that you made some serious mistakes with what you just did. So instead of losing your temper, instead of getting angry, instead of getting sad when something happens, take a step back, take a breath, take ownership over your emotions, and let yourself cool off before you do anything that you're going to end up regretting.
This is something you said from your second Way of the Warrior Kid book. As a kid, your parents pretty much give you everything: your food, your clothes, your bed. And when you are given things for free, you don't appreciate their value, what they're worth. So, how do we take ownership of our stuff?
Well, this is something that's very important. And it's, I definitely learned this lesson in the SEAL teams. And what they say in the SEAL teams is if you take care of your gear will take care of you. And what they mean by that is you have very important items that you rely upon, like a life jacket. We have a certain type of life jacket. And if you don't maintain that properly, if you don't keep it clean, if you don't keep it lubricated the way it's supposed to be, then it won't work when you need it. And obviously, when you need a life jacket, you really need a life jacket because otherwise you could drown, you could die. Same thing with parachutes. And it's good to do that, not just with your military gear, but everything that you have. The example that I use in the Warrior Kid book is your bicycle. If you let a bicycle sit outside, it'll get rusty and it'll get ruined. And by the time you need to take your bicycle to go see your friend, it's not going to work anymore. So you have to be disciplined and take care of your gear. And that's an important lesson to learn from being a kid.
In that book, Mark was just saying, well, my mom's going to buy me a new one. And Uncle Jake, the Navy SEAL uncle who's mentoring Mark, talks to him about how he needs to buy it. He needs to get a job. I've been super impressed. Isaac, he's been using some of his skills to actually start working. Can you tell us about that, Isaac? Like some of the things you've been doing this year to start making money from, things you've been doing?
I've learned how to play the piano for a long time, and I've been getting really good. And I got the chance to teach my little sister, who's about 6 right now. I also, because I can play the game chess pretty good, I have been able to teach a kid who lives near us, and I'm making money from that too.
8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds feel like, well, there's nothing I can do to make money, but I bet there's a lot of good examples you've heard.
Well, just like Uncle Jake says in the book, if you want a job, what you need to do is find something that you can do that other people don't want to do. And I'll tell you, when I was a kid, we had a lot of weeds around our house, and it was not a fun job, but it was a job that I would have to do because my mom and dad didn't want to do it. So once you find something that people don't want to do that you have the skill to do, they'll be willing to pay you a little bit of money to do that. And guess what? When you're a kid, a little bit of money can go a long way.
Thanks for joining us on part 1 of our conversation with Jocko. Please continue listening to part 2, where we really get into how discipline equals freedom.
Thanks for listening. J House out.